Helmet? I do not see that.
I saw him talking, but he's got a headset on.
I'm standing right next to you. Right next to you. I came up and I said, sir,
I thought you were going this way. I didn't hear you.
I said, stop. I followed you halfway throughout the store.
I have discussed the efficacy of eyewitness testimony in a previous episode, which I will link in the info card above, so I won't spend too much time on it in this episode. But it should be noted that witnesses can be extremely unreliable, and the manager's recollection of events is a testament to that. First, the manager claims that he walked right up to Mr. Fendler and implied that Mr. Fendler intentionally ignored him. As you can see from the surveillance footage, the manager makes a subtle gesture at Mr. Fendler, but remains outside of his field of view for the majority of the encounter. It is easy to see how Mr. Fendler may have been unaware that the manager was trying to speak to him, considering that he was wearing headphones and his view was restricted by the helmet. Next, the manager claims that he followed Mr. Fendler halfway through the store, telling him to stop. But once again, the cameras show that this statement is inaccurate. Although the manager did follow Mr. Fendler across the store, he approached Mr. Fendler from behind the second time and gave up after being ignored again. The manager implied that there was no way Mr. Fendler could have missed him.
You know, just like I know, that when a man turns down $250,000 from the government, it's not about the money. It's about exposing a rot that goes so deep, the elite don't even bother hiding it anymore. We've all seen the footage of police losing their minds over a man simply wearing a helmet in a store. But the files they don't want you to touch reveal a far darker truth about who gets to walk free and who gets thrown in a cage. This isn't just a story about a bad cop having a meltdown. This is about the moment a quiet young man became an unlikely legend by refusing to sell his soul. Think back to August of 2019. El Paso was fresh in everyone's mind, a real tragedy. And we all know how the machine works. They take that fear, they bottle it, and they use it to justify stomping on your God-given rights. That morning, a 22-year-old named Freedom Fendler walked into a Walmart just trying to buy a sandwich and some peaches before heading to his job.
Gear, including his helmet. It should also be noted that Mr. Fendler was listening to music through Bluetooth headphones inside his helmet. Shortly after entering the store, Mr. Fendler was briefly approached by one of the managers, but Mr. Fendler fails to acknowledge their presence and continues walking. The manager stalls for a moment, and approximately 1 minute later, he approaches Mr. Fendler from behind, but he is ignored again. Mr. Fendler continued shopping for another 10 minutes, and after checking out and stopping at a bench inside the store to organize his backpack, he was confronted by several officers of the Sauarita Police Department.
Hey, bud, you got some ID on you? Hey.
Hey!
You have some ID on you? Hold on. What's up? You have some ID on you? Sure.
A car dealership. He kept his motorcycle helmet on, listening to music, completely in his own world. The establishment calls him a threat. But you watch the security tape. You see the manager. The corporate footage proves the manager never stood in front of him. He never physically got his attention. But that didn't stop the sworn testimony from claiming he screamed in the man's face and chased him across the store. It's a fabrication, a lie sworn to the boys in blue. And we all know why they ran with it. Because it fits the narrative that every citizen is a potential shooter just waiting to be stopped. They called in the heavy artillery, surrounding a man on a grocery run as if he were some kind of ritualistic actor in a dark ceremony, rather than a commuter trying to save time.
Yeah, management's been asking you to take your helmet off while you're walking around in the store and you're just ignoring them. What are you talking about, man? Do you think I'm talking just to
Dude, do me a favor, take your helmet off. You're not going to speak with us with your helmet on.
Okay.
At this point, the officers have initiated an investigatory detainment, and Mr. Fendler surrenders his identification without question or protest. The legality of wearing a helmet inside Walmart is irrelevant. The real issue at hand is whether the officers have reasonable suspicion to believe that Mr. Fendler is trespassing, and given that the manager who called 911 said that they had asked Mr. Fendler to leave several times, it is likely that the officers would be within their authority to detain and investigate him. As with many states, citizens in Arizona are required to state their name if a police officer suspects them of committing a crime under Arizona Revised Statute 13-2412. And Mr. Fendler would have been
But here's where the script flips, and the hero emerges in the most unlikely package. The officers, led by a man named John George, didn't just question him. They tried to break his spirit. Officer George looked this hard-working American in the eye and screamed a tirade that would make a drill sergeant blush, telling him to pull your head out of your ass, mocking him, demanding he shut his mouth simply because the officer didn't like being questioned.
Out of your ass and quit arguing every time somebody tells you something.
I'm
telling you, look at what you're doing. You keep wanting to argue with me. I'm not the guy you want to argue with.
Wasn't trying to argue.
That's why you keep talking. Stop talking.
Okay, fine. Cool.
This is Officer John George, and his emotional outburst did nothing to progress the investigative intent in Mr. Fendler's detainment. In fact, it hindered the officer's ability to build a complete contextual narrative around the accusations being put forth by the manager. Not only was Officer George's reprimand unprofessional and uncalled for, but it also violated Mr. Fendler's First Amendment right to free speech. In the 1987 case of Houston versus Hill, the Supreme Court held that citizens have a right to voice their opinions to or near police officers, whether or not they are in the performance of their duties. Mr. Fendler was detained when Officer George ordered him to stop talking, which essentially amounts to a government official depriving a citizen of free speech. There are also implications of Fourth Amendment violations associated with Officer George's conduct as well. In the 1983 Supreme Court case of Florida versus Royer, the court recognized that, quote, the scope of the detention must be carefully tailored to its underlying justification, and that, quote, the investigative methods employed should be the least intrusive means.
In most videos, this is where the person crumbles and begs for mercy, not freedom. He stood there, calm, collected, and then he exercised the one right that terrifies the powerful more than anything. He went silent.
Directly ruled on the constitutionality of this conduct, prior cases indicate that it could arguably be viewed as a Fourth Amendment violation. Whether or not it was a violation of rights, Officer George's tantrum was completely unprofessional and uncalled for. Once Officer George calms down, the manager and the officers continue to question Mr. Fendler, but he decides to remain silent.
Do
you have his info? I was going to see if you want him trespassed.
Yeah, I do want him trespassed. I don't want back in this.
Okay, so officially being trespassed from the store, don't come back to Walmart. Come back to Walmart, manager, anyone sees you, you get arrested for that.
And we don't have a picture of him taken in with a helmet.
When he walks out, it'll be on the camera when he walks out. What's your telephone number?
Do I have to provide that, sir?
Yes, you do.
You know just like I know that silence isn't a sign of guilt. It's a wall that corruption can't climb. They demanded to know his social security number, his business, his age, and in that moment, freedom denied them the sound of submission. When the state asks you to perform for your own conviction, silence is justice. And because he wouldn't stroke their ego and admit to a crime that never happened, they did what threatened bullies do. They blackballed him from a national system, banned him from every Walmart in the country, and dragged him to a cell for 17 hours on a bogus disorderly conduct charge. They thought the story ended there, with a young man punished for disturbing the peace that they themselves shattered.
You'll be arrested and you're booked for trespassing. Understand, what he's telling you, you're trespassing from Walmart, it's a national system. You're not just trespassing from this Walmart, you're trespassing from all Walmarts and Sam's Clubs. Alright? So understand that. If something happens and you get pulled over or stopped at one of them other ones for wearing your helmet for stupid stunts like that, you'll find yourself sitting in county. Didn't have to be like that. But how many other people you see going to business walking around with a motorcycle helmet on?
Especially with the shootings in Daytona and freaking El Paso just happening.
Your goal is
people are going to be on edge, they're going to be scared, they're going to be worried, okay? You got someone that walks in wearing a motorcycle helmet and has a backpack with military camouflage, they're going to think otherwise. They're not going to think it's just some law biases. See how that looks? It's like common. It's kind of like common sense. I mean, like I said, he rides, I ride. I always take my helmet off. I mean, does it really save you that much time? Today it didn't.
Are you on medication?
How old are you?
Mental health issues or anything?
How old are you? Tell me how old you are. Tell me how old you are.
But that humiliation became the breadcrumb that leads us to the real cover-up. The charges against Freedom Fendler were thrown out, completely dismissed.
Thinking about it, especially with the way he's acting, he asked him 5 or 6 times to leave, called him around the store.
I would say so. I'd say we missed the threshold. Why not?
So,
Especially the current behavior.
You're asking about all the leave the store?
5 or 6 times. Walk right next to him, just like we're walking right now.
You're under arrest for trespassing.
Mr. Fendler was arrested, charged with disorderly conduct, and taken to the Pima County Adult Detention Center, where he was detained for 17 hours. Following the encounter, Mr. Fendler's charges were dismissed, and he went on to file a lawsuit claiming that he was illegally searched, falsely arrested, maliciously prosecuted, and publicly defamed by the department. According to the Green Valley News, as of September 1st, 2020, both the town of Sauarita and the Sauarita Police Department deny any wrongdoing and have moved to dismiss the lawsuit. A judge has yet to rule on the dismissal, and Mr. Fendler's lawsuit is still ongoing. Overall, the Sauarita officers get an F for neglecting to conduct a thorough and legitimate investigation, remaining hostile and condescending throughout the interaction, and escalating what could have been a trespass warning into an arrest for disorderly conduct. The officers utterly failed to conduct an investigation into what actually took place, and essentially arrested Mr. Fendler for being quiet after being told to do so. That being said,
That means the arrest was baseless from the jump. So Freedom did what every real American should do. He sued the Sauarita Police Department. Now here is the truth they don't want you to know about how the elite clean up their messes. The town and the department, they denied everything. Standard boilerplate denial of wrongdoing. But behind closed doors, they offered Freedom Fendler a settlement check for $250,000. That's taxpayer money, your hard-earned cash, offered up to make this problem go away. They wanted to buy his silence. They wanted to slide that blood money across the table so they could avoid setting a precedent that protects you. And in the greatest act of moral fortitude I've seen in a decade, Freedom Fendler rejected the $250,000.
Communication, and no one's livelihood was threatened by Mr. Fendler's actions. But instead of acting as neutral arbitrators on behalf of the public, the Sauarita officers chose to exaggerate the gravity of wearing a helmet inside a store and effectuate a baseless arrest. Nothing that the officers did made their community a safer place, and the fact that the charges were dropped demonstrates that their actions were unfounded. Mr. Fendler gets a B+, because although he could have exercised his right to remain silent more tactfully, he remained calm and compliant throughout the interaction, made a legitimate attempt to establish a productive dialogue, and followed up this encounter with the proper legal action. Mr. Fendler was outnumbered from the start, and there likely wasn't much that he could say or do to avoid being arrested, especially considering that he wasn't saying anything when the officers decided to arrest him. Mr. Fendler made a genuine...
He said no. He looked at $250,000, life-changing money for a young man working a dealership gig, and he told the system to keep it because his principal wasn't for sale. That isn't just a lawsuit anymore. That is a mission from God to expose the demonic arrogance of those who think they own us. This connects to the larger moment we're all living in right now, the everything makes sense now payoff. You see why they're so terrified of a man in a helmet, don't you? It's because they can't see his face. They couldn't scan him. They couldn't profile his micro-expressions, and that drives their surveillance state mad. They called it disturbing the peace, but the peace was only disturbed for a manager who thought he could command a free man like a dog and got ignored. And when the police arrived, they weren't there to protect the public. They were there to avenge a bruised manager's ego. The real violence in that Walmart lobby wasn't a helmet. It was Officer George's verbal assault, a demonic eruption of rage pointed at a silent, peaceful man. We've seen this playbook before. They push, they prod, they want you to react so they can justify the chains. But when you refuse to give them that reaction, they simply forge the paperwork anyway. Freedom Fendler walking into that store became a litmus test for liberty in America, and he passed it by standing still.
Hey.
Hey!
You have some ID on you? Hold on. What's up? You have some ID on you? Sure. You have a problem? Yeah, management's been asking you to take your helmet off while you're walking around in the store and you're just ignoring them. What are you talking about, man? Do you think I'm talking just...
Dude, do me a favor, take your helmet off. You're not going to speak with us with your helmet on.
Okay.
At this point, the officers have initiated an investigatory detainment, and Mr. Fendler surrenders his identification without question or protest. The legality of wearing a helmet inside Walmart is irrelevant. The real issue at hand is whether the officers have reasonable suspicion to believe that Mr. Fendler is trespassing, and given that the manager who called 911 said that they had asked Mr. Fendler to leave several times, it is likely that the officers would be within their authority to detain and investigate him. As with many states, citizens in Arizona are required to state their name if a police officer suspects them of committing a crime under Arizona Revised Statute 13-2412, and Mr. Fendler would have been required to state his name if he hadn't peacefully surrendered his ID. It is important to note.
So where does that leave us? The lawsuit is still grinding through the courts, a slow walk through a swamp where the judges and the badges protect each other. We don't have a resolution yet because the system is designed to exhaust you until you quit. But freedom hasn't quit. The files are out there. The footage doesn't lie, even when the officers do. And so I have to ask you directly, because I need to know if you see what I see. If a man guilty of nothing more than wearing protective gear can be swarmed, screamed at, lied about, and jailed for 17 hours, and when the state tries to hush it up with a massive payout, he refuses? What does that tell us about the thousands of cases where they didn't record it, and the victim had no choice but to take the money? How many of our neighbors have been forced to bend the knee to this exact type of legalized extortion? When the elite try to buy your silence with $250,000, do you think you would have the spiritual armor and the absolute guts to look them in the eye, walk away from the cash, and demand justice? Let me know in the comments below.